All right, we are recording, and I'm very nervous right now because I've already recorded this, and last time it didn't show the actual work being done. I have a green screen around the problems. Live studio audience, do we believe we are being recorded? Let's hope so. I'm going to be nervous the whole time now. Okay, so number one on this problem. Oh, by the way, 4th hour. Sorry about the luck, but I didn't hit record. Well, I did hit record. I just recorded my stupid face last time instead of actual problems. So instead of having you do these problems with your imagination, we're re-recording with 6th hour. So if I repeat jokes or if I just don't have if my jokes seem like I'm not delivering, it might be because it's for the 3rd time I've done this. Anyway, okay, this problem, there's a lot of complicated things about this problem. The height, the radius, all these things. But at the end of the day, this is just a problem where it is asking you with the volume of your cylinder, it's giving you a radius. And it's asking you to figure out the height. Just plug the radius in to the equation. So all you really have to do here is 144 divided by my R, which is 6, square it. So 144 divided by 36. And you should get 4. 4 inches height. And if you look here and go to where 6 is my radius on the X and go to 4, like that answer should stick out. It makes sense. Okay. Now let's look at part B of this. Decided to graph this function. So this is just the function that we're looking at. And we're looking at -10 to 10. Now, does it make sense to have a radius of negative for this particular cylinder? Although mathematically the function will still exist, it doesn't make sense to have the radius be a negative number. So a more realistic domain here would be positive numbers. That is numbers greater than 0. So we would have a radius that is greater than 0. And let's make that window, let's narrow it into 10. So what we're really emphasizing here is that these numbers would need to be positive numbers. Okay. Now, something I did solve since the last recording is that we can go back. We can go back to the previous slide and see it. So I won't be complaining about not being able to erase. I'll just see, I'm already nervous. Am I recording my screen? Yes, I am. Woo! Studio audience, are we happy that we're actually showing the problems? Yeah. Okay, so again, a pretty tough problem. Surface area, square inches of a cylinder, 70 cubic inches, all this stuff about how to solve this, how to figure out this surface area. It gives you the radius. Again, that's just asking you to plug in a value for a radius and do the math. So you've got a radius of 7. 2 pi 7 squared plus, these are just numbers. So you're just taking that number, putting it into your equation. Okay. Yeah, 502. 140 divided by 7. Well, that's just 20. 7 squared, that's 49. 49 times 2 pi, well, that's 96 pi. If I multiplied, not 96, 98. 98 degrees and rising. What famous television host was in the boy band 98 degrees and rising? Answer below in the comments for bonus. Today's bonus question brought to you by shirts. Wear them. Shirts. Okay, So 98 pi, that's just a fancy number. You get 327.9. Studio audience, did anyone have an answer to that question? Yes.
Okay, for the calculator, do you just put 98 pi?
Yeah. 98 and then pi, and it multiplies by pi, and you get your answer here. But the more important question, Nick Lachey. Nick Lachey, member of the boy band 98 Degrees and Rising. Or no, it was 98 Degrees, and the album's name was 98 Degrees and Rising. In case you were wondering, I know you are. In case you're wondering at home what that loud noise is, it's someone sharpening their pencil. But we're done with that. We'll edit that out. No, we won't. All right, so vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes are going to be in the form x equals something. And remember, you're trying to figure out where the denominator, denominator. I definitely spell it right or I will denominate you. Okay, denominator equals 0. Why? Because if you divide by 0, the math breaks. So we need to make the vertical asymptotes. That's what VA stands for in this case. So if we have x plus 4, how would I make that equal 0? I would make x equal -4. So we would like look at a graph here, and the vertical asymptote would be at x equals -4. Okay, so with that same logic, your vertical asymptote here would be at x equals 2, because 2 minus 2 is 0. Now, this one seems to throw people off the most, even though it should be the easiest one. A lot of people want to put 1. A lot of people want to say there's nothing here. Well, it's kind of nothing. If we solve this, x equals 0. For letter D, your vertical asymptote will be when x equals 5. All right, that's another set of problems done. I know I'm going fast, but you're going to watch it, record it, try it on your own, come back and check your work. Right, studio audience? Woo! All right, horizontal asymptotes. We need to take the lead coefficient divided by the lead coefficient. This is when the numerator and the denominator have the same degree. Okay, so in this case, we have -3x divided by 6x. So we would have -3x divided by 6x. The x's cancel out. -3 divided by 6 gives me -1/2. These are horizontal asymptotes, so they'll be written in y equals form. So y equals -1/2. Here we have -3. There's nothing in front of this x. That's like saying it has a 1. So your asymptote here would be at -3. Y equals -3. So that would be like graph that kind of looks like this, right? And it has a horizontal asymptote, the spot where it does not get touched at y equals -3. Okay, -3 divided by negative 1x. The x's cancel out. We're left with negative 3 divided by negative. Negative divided by negative makes it a positive 3. Now, studio audience, is the numerator and the do the denominator and the numerator have the same degree here? No. No. Hope at home you can hear everyone saying no. So if they do not have the same degree, then your horizontal asymptote will be at y equals 0, which would be the x-axis. All right, that's an entire page. That page was brought to you by pencils. Am I right?
Yeah.
Then write with a pencil. If you're right, then write with a pencil.
I get it.
Pencils. The next thing to write with. Okay. Now, I have an equation here, 4x minus 5 over 2x. This equation would have a vertical asymptote at 2x equals 0. Well, if 2x equals 0, well, then it would be at x equals 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is check my vertical asymptotes. I have vertical asymptote here at 0. I have one here. It looks like I have a vertical asymptote at 0 on all three of these. So vertical asymptote, you didn't really help me here. We have one at the exact same spot everywhere. So that didn't help. So what I'm going to use is my horizontal asymptote to help me here. So when I do 4x divided by 2x, I get 2. So go to y equals 2 and see which one of these or ones of these have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 2. The first one does. Second one looks like y equals 4. Not here. Third one looks like y equals -2. No good. Here, also y equals 2. All right, so I've narrowed it down to A and D. How do I know it's D? Because I have a positive. This is going to be a positive looking graph. Okay, this is what a positive one would be. You also could have substituted an x value in there to make sure it gave you the correct y value. So D is my answer. So the editing was off on this one. We should have -5x over x plus 3. So I have a vertical asymptote at x equals -3. Looks like you have a vertical asymptote here at -3, right? Vertical. We have a vertical asymptote 1, 2, not here. This one is at +3, so B's out. Also -3 here, right? 1, 2, 3. So this one is a possibility. And this is at +3, so this one's out. All right, so the vertical asymptote has narrowed it down to 2. Let's move on to the horizontal asymptote, which when I do -5 divided by -5x divided by x gives me -5. There is a horizontal asymptote at y equals -5 here. So this one is still in the running. This is at +5. So that is out. So my answer should be I think on your papers, there's a second B there for whatever reason, but we all know it was the A answer. Another page in the books. Because the horizontal asymptote should have been at -5, and there was a horizontal asymptote at -5, and the vertical asymptote should have been at -3. Whereas down here, we had the correct vertical asymptote, but the wrong horizontal one. All right, I always first start these types of problems, solving rational equations, with what my answer cannot be. My answer cannot be -2, because it would make that denominator break. It also cannot be 1. So after I cross multiply here, we get x minus 1. Cross multiply the other way, and we get 2x plus 4. I've got variables on one side, numbers on the other. I'm going to move all my variables to the right-hand side, so take x away here. We have -1 equals x plus 4. Take 4 away from both sides. -5 equals x. Can x equal -5? It absolutely can. So this solution is my solution. And we know that our asymptotes would have been at -2 and 1. So those were the solutions that would have given us extraneous solutions. All right, a big reason why a lot of these problems can be very tough is because we've got to combine a lot of our skills. Cross multiplying here, that gives me -9x. I know Miss Royer over here remembers 89x, and that's what I think of when I do that problem. 89x. It was a radio station. See, the radio is this thing in the car that you turn on when you don't have your headphones. All right. Now, x plus 4 times x minus 5. Personally, distributing that would be very sloppy if I did it, so I used my box method. To note, because I know that x squared minus 5x plus 4x and minus 20 is the result. Some members of our studio audience are commenting that the speed of this video may be too fast. If the speed of this video is too fast, you may pause, you may rewind, you may rewatch, you may redo the problem and then check it later. Most good results are from when you've tried it on your own and then you check it on your own, come back, watch it again, and do it at your own pace. For more information, like, subscribe, and I don't know. It's on YouTube. Oh my gosh, so many. I'm talking tens and tens. I don't know if it's actually tens. It's like 15 or something. Man, you guys will get the word out though, right? Yeah. All right, algebros and algebras. Let's continue. Okay, I want everything on the right-hand side. So go ahead and not add 9x to each side. Fourth hour couldn't answer this earlier, and I had to pretend, the magic of Hollywood, I had to pretend like they were all answering. But I know that you all know we're going to factor this side. Facts. You know what we're going to do? Facts. Factors. So something that multiplies to be -20, that adds up to 8. Wait, guys, calm down. people won't be able to hear the recording because so many people are shouting the answer to what multiplies to be -20 and adds up to 8. We're going to edit that one out. That's the cough track. Because of the cough, not because of the answer, because of the cough.
Oh, who had that -10 and
Close. All right. -2 and 10. Because we need the positive so that when they add up, 15. That's a lot. I'm in it for love of the game, not for followers. All right. Oh my gosh. You know what we forgot to do? We forgot to say what solutions cannot be. Yes. We can't have -4. We also can't have 0. That's okay though, because my solutions are very good. There we go. So we have 2 solutions and they're both true. After we did that, it said set up professional audio in settings. I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. Okay, so what can X not be here? Because +4 is my denominator, so the opposite of that, -4. All right. Like I was saying earlier, these are all kind of unique. There's different ways to do this, but what I look at when I'm multiplying that, I'm not even going to multiply. I'm just going to kind of set it up. 4x. Security, please calm the studio audience down. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, security. Thank you, Steve. Steve's the security guy from Jerry Springer Show. Surprised you didn't know that. Come on. You know, they'd all chant Jerry. Steve Wilkos. Google it. Me mentioning Steve Wilkos will either get us taken off of YouTube or get us more subscribers. All right. What I've noticed, the reason I'm not multiplying these is because I've noticed both denominators are the same. So I can, instead of multiplying both sides by x plus 4, I can get rid of both x plus 4s by dividing. So now, oh, I forget. Why did I write 4x twice? My bad. Should say 3x minus 4, right? So now I know. Now I just have 4x equals 3x minus 4. And maybe we should have started there in the first place. If you have the denominators the same, you can get rid of those denominators and just solve for the numerators. You're trying to figure out where these two numerators are the same. And it's when 4x equals 3x minus 4. Right. We could have just from the jump realized, hey, I just want the numerators to be the same. So when is 4x equal to 3x minus 4? Take 3x away from both sides. And we get our answer. Our answer is x equals -4. Perfect. That's our answer, right?
no,
Extraneous. So there actually is no solution.
You have to write it, there's no solution, or can you just write it?
If you find the one solution and it's extra, it would be fine if you just labeled it extraneous. Just make sure you are labeling the extraneous solutions as such. Class is not over for all of us.
Yeah.
For some of us, it is. Okay, so we discussed these a little bit in class. A publisher in charge of designing the layout of a book and getting them printed. Okay, if books are printed, so this is like basically saying, hey, what do these asymptotes actually mean? Right? Like right here, we have a vertical asymptote when x equals 0. Okay. Well, find C of 0. So actually plug that in. C of 0 equals 350 plus 8 times 0. So we're actually trying to figure out what this means. And what you would get if you put all this in, because you're dividing by 0, you would get something that's undefined. And the reason you get something that's undefined is because would you have an average cost per book if you bought no books?
No.
What you don't hear at home is everybody shouting, no, of course you wouldn't. No, of course not. See, you wouldn't have an average cost per books because you haven't bought any books. So you can't have an average for what you're paying if you're not paying anything. Okay. So this vertical asymptote in real life is basically saying you're not going to have an average. So there's no average per book without buying books. Kind of like how we talked about, you're not going to travel 7 miles if time never goes by, right? Similar to that. Now, as the amount of books you sell goes up, right? Like, what's the average cost of books if you bought 100 books? If you did all that, you would get an average of $11.50 per book. Even though the books are $8, we're spreading out that printing cost across those 100 people. So you end up paying $11.50 per book. Now, it makes sense that if we buy more books, that $350 gets spread out across more purchases. And therefore, your average cost per book goes down, all the way down to $8.70. What a deal. So if you are trying to buy a book, you want to encourage more people to buy the book so that you can spread out that printing cost. Okay. But no matter how much work you do, what will the average cost of the book never get to? Where will that horizontal asymptote exist at? How much will the book cost no matter what? No matter how much we go down. So let's think about it first. What is my horizontal asymptote? 8x divided by x is 8. Okay, so just knowing that you would have an asymptote at 8, like what does that asymptote mean? It means that no matter what, the price of the book will never be equal to $8 because of the printing cost. So even if we spread the printing cost over 1 million sales of books, there's still that little itty bit, that minuscule amount, that fraction of a penny that needs to go into account to be paid for to make up for that $350. So you can get really close to $8, but you'll never get to where you can dip below it because of that asymptote. You've been a wonderful studio audience.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Mr. Cunningham. This recording has been brought to you by Record Buttons. Press them, use them, screens, share them. Bye, everyone. Good luck on your test. Oh, now I know what I did.